Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to Season 2 of the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone Puzzle Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching, creator of the Hormone Puzzle Method, an infertility warrior, two-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptom of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the fields of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now let's get started on your road to transformation. I am so excited to welcome today's guest, Jillian Greaves. She is an integrative and functional registered dietitian and women's health specialist. She is best known for her whole health approach and her ability to support and empower women in addressing the root causes of their hormone and digestive symptoms naturally. She practices functional medicine nutrition and utilizes cutting-edge research to provide exceptional care to women in an environment that is always supportive and empathetic. Jillian specializes in helping women who need support with PCOS, hormonal imbalance, and digestive health. So today's show is all about PCOS, and this show is dedicated to all of our PCOS sisters who might be struggling with this condition and to support everybody for National PCOS Awareness Month. So listen in as I talk to Jillian about what PCOS is and what it's not, and how to eat and live to optimize your body with PCOS so you can manage and even eliminate your symptoms with this condition so that you can get pregnant, stay pregnant, and live in hormonal harmony. Without further ado, let's welcome Jillian to our show. Today's episode is presented by TwoPlus Fertility, a comfortable and easy to use at-home device that increases the chances of a sperm meeting an egg when you're trying to conceive. When you try naturally, less than 1% of sperm reach the egg. TwoPlus Fertility's goal is to fix that. For more information, visit 2plusfertility.com and use code KAYLA30 at checkout for 30% off your order. Hey, Jillian, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Me too. I'm excited to talk about PCOS today for PCOS Awareness Month.
I know. I'm so excited. It's perfect timing.
Yes, I love it. So let's just dive in. Tell us a little bit more about you, how you started working in women's health and, in functional medicine.
Yeah. So I'm a functional medicine registered dietitian based in Boston. So I have a private nutrition counseling practice that I operate, virtually now with COVID times.
Yes.
And in terms of kind of how I got into the world of functional medicine and women's health, there's sort of a personal, kind of angle and a professional angle. I feel like everyone sort of has their own, kind of personal story that brought them, kind of to do the work that they do. But my own hormone healing journey started a little bit over a decade ago. And at the time, I, had already gotten my undergraduate degree in nutrition. I was finishing up my master's degree in nutrition and was gearing up to do my dietitian training, and felt pretty good about the health, nutrition background and knowledge that I had. But I started to experience a lot of unpleasant symptoms of my own. So I, was experiencing rashes and bloating and anxiety, difficulty sleeping, and overall just really did not feel like myself. And despite feeling like I was sort of doing all the right things. And at the time, I sought out, help from my PCP and other, kind of conventional providers that I had on my team at the time, and was really told everything's fine, labs are normal, don't worry about it. You're the picture of health, despite experiencing all of these symptoms. And was basically just offered, hey, you could take this medication or use this topical. And it was very, very frustrating to feel like, I was experiencing all these things and no one was willing to, sort of support me in understanding why. So I was not willing to, kind of accept that as an answer. And I knew that there had to be something deeper, kind of driving the symptoms that I was experiencing. And, that kind of defaulting to a medication to sort of Band-Aid things was not going to be, the solution at the end of the day. So I started to kind of dig into the research on, women's health and female physiology, and sort of, fell into this whole world of functional medicine that I really did not know anything about at the time, and was, just completely amazed and, started to really immerse myself in that world, to learn more about my own body, to, ultimately heal my body and get, more of an understanding of kind of what was going on with the symptoms I was experiencing. And over time, I was able to get really incredible results for myself in terms of healing my own body, which motivated me to want to seek out, advanced training in functional medicine and women's health, so I could ultimately, kind of provide women with the type of care and support that I wished I had had access to when I was struggling and feeling alone and, kind of going along on my own journey. So long story short, kind of went through a lot of things personally with my health that brought me into the world of, women's health and functional medicine, and really motivated me to, start my own practice and start to really help women get access to the care that I wish that I had had.
I love that. And I find that so many of us, that's how we started in this industry and this business, and, our own personal stories and being frustrated with not getting the answers we wanted from our doctor. And I see that so much where, your doctor tells you everything's normal and you're like, but I have these symptoms, something is wrong. So Good for you for kind of digging in deeper and wanting to help. We need so many more practitioners like us to help these women, for sure.
We really do. Yeah.
I love it. So let's dive into talking about PCOS. So for those of us who don't know, can you just give us a little broad, what is PCOS? And how do we know that we have it?
Yes, so that's a great question. So PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome, for those that aren't familiar. And PCOS is it's a complex hormone and metabolic condition that impacts an estimated 1 in 10 women, and potentially more, in the United States, which is wild because it's super common, but a lot of people have never heard of it before. And I think when talking about PCOS, it's important to note that, PCOS is not a disease, it's a syndrome, right? So what that means is it's sort of diagnosed by a collection or a constellation of different symptoms that women, may experience. And it's most commonly talked about as a fertility disorder, but it is something that impacts the body systemically in terms of, the immune system and the brain and the cardiovascular system and the gut. So there's lots of, different things to consider when we're talking about PCOS. Because women with PCOS will often experience absent or irregular cycles, it makes it more difficult to conceive naturally often, which is why it is the leading cause of infertility in the U.S. But when thinking about PCOS, you really do need to think about it, a little bit more systemically in terms of the impacts and the symptoms and the systems that it affects. In terms of, how do you know if you have PCOS or how is it diagnosed? This can be a little bit tricky because PCOS, it does manifest differently in each individual, right? So if I have PCOS and you have PCOS, it can look totally different from a symptom perspective. And there is a little bit of controversy over how it's diagnosed, but currently the most kind of widely accepted criteria for diagnosing PCOS is the Rotterdam criteria, which basically states that you need to have 2 of these 3 symptoms in order to achieve a diagnosis. Those 3 sort of symptoms being an absent or an irregular cycle, high androgens confirmed clinically or chemically. Androgens are a category of male hormones that women also have that tend to be elevated in women with PCOS. And the third criteria being polycystic appearing ovaries. So 2 of those 3 is sort of what is used currently in our system to diagnose PCOS.
Gotcha. And so, I work with a lot of people with PCOS as well. And I always recommend, like, if you're experiencing any of those symptoms, let's check your hormones, let's check with your doctor and see if that could be the cause of those symptoms. Because as you know, those symptoms also can be many other conditions. So that's what makes it so frustrating. You're like, how do you know?
Totally. Yeah. And I think there's, I forget the exact statistic, but I'm pretty sure like some of the most recent data, kind of suggested that most women have to see like 3 different providers before, receiving a PCOS diagnosis. And it can take many years to do that, which again is super frustrating because it's so common.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, people like you and I are often sometimes, the first, providers that are looking at these things and saying, hey, we need to look into this, and kind of pushing to either rule out or get that diagnosis.
For sure. And that's one of the things we talk about on this show too, is you need to be your own advocate. So if your doctor's telling you like you're normal, but you're still having symptoms, then go to another doctor. Keep fighting for your health and your right to know what's going on with you, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about nutrition. How does nutrition kind of play a role in managing PCOS?
Yeah. So nutrition and food can play a huge role in managing PCOS, particularly with, supporting or addressing some of the imbalances that can drive PCOS symptoms for women. So as an example, and anywhere from like 70 to 75% of women with PCOS experience some degree of insulin resistance or, these blood sugar issues that can, prevent ovulation, drive all sorts of, symptoms that they experience. So we can actually use food and nutrition to support stable blood sugar and to improve insulin sensitivity, which can help to, decrease symptoms in a really significant way. Another example is, chronic low-grade inflammation is another really common driver with PCOS. So we can use food and nutrition to lower inflammation with, an anti-inflammatory dietary pattern, with identifying food sensitivities, supporting gut health, which can be a big source of inflammation. So all sorts of different ways that we can use food to really support the body and minimize symptoms.
Gotcha. And we'll go into a little bit more about specific foods in the next section where we talk about like practical tips. So, but I love that. Definitely, food plays a huge role, as, you and I both know for sure. Yeah. So let's talk about what are some mistakes you see people making that have PCOS?
Yeah. So I would say one of the biggest mistakes that I see women making, and unfortunately, I will say too, I think this mistake is really driven by the way our healthcare system approaches things as a whole. But I will often see women chasing symptoms. So, chasing symptoms in terms of, a lot of women with PCOS may experience some shifts in weight, right? Mm-hmm. So, instead of understanding why the weight might be not feeling so good or shifting in a direction that doesn't feel normal and healthy for that, individual's body, I will see women chasing the weight and, restricting and cutting out, and this sort of like punishment approach that can actually end up making things worse at the end of the day. So I would say that's probably the biggest mistake I see, is sort of that like restrictive kind of punishment approach towards nutrition and lifestyle, and also just the chasing of symptoms, which can, lead us to feeling like we're on that hamster wheel with our health.
For sure. And that frustrates me so much too, because as you know, we go to our doctor, we say, I'm gaining weight, I can't lose weight, we'll eat less and work out more. That's what they get. And I'm like, but that's not going to help things. That's the symptom that you're treating. It's not the underlying cause of why you can't lose weight in the first place. Let's heal that. And then the weight loss is just an added benefit. So
exactly, right? The weight loss sort of, happens naturally when you support those root causes. And, I'm sure you see this, or I'm curious if you experience this a lot with, your clients, but oftentimes I'll see women, doing the workout more, eat less for, the pursuit of weight loss. And some of these individuals have a lot of, kind of adrenal issues, or, maybe they have that adrenal factor PCOS, meaning, they have the overproduction of androgens because of, this adrenal dysfunction, or their body overproducing stress hormones, or this sensitive stress response system. So if we're trying to address those things, the last thing we want to do is, work out harder, restrict more, and put more stress on the body. And, women will end up gaining more weight and feeling even worse. And it's this, totally vicious cycle. I don't know if you experienced that.
For sure. Wow. Yes, definitely. And, that's why I kind of work with clients and I teach them how to cycle optimize and like work out with their hormones instead of against. And I love when a client says to me, and I'm sure you can agree with this, but I'm eating more than I ever have. I'm working out less and I'm losing weight. And I'm like, yes, we got it.
Yes, I know. And it's scary for, for clients to kind of, take that first step. And then, oh my gosh, so amazing when, you can see women experience that.
Yeah, I love it. So let's talk. Do you think it's possible to reverse our PCOS symptoms and even go into remission from this condition?
100%. And I have seen it time and time again with the women that I work with on a day-to-day basis. PCOS certainly is a chronic condition, and that it's something that women will likely need to be mindful of in the way that they, support their bodies with nutrition and lifestyle. But you can absolutely reverse symptoms. And, the idea of, sort of having PCOS can become, kind of an afterthought versus something you're thinking about or feeling like you're managing all the time. So 100%. And a lot of the big symptoms that I will see, resolve for women is, the absent irregular cycles, the skin issues, the gut issues, the issues with weight and sleep and stress. So 100%. And I think, that's just not talked about enough. But it is 1000% possible.
For sure. I see the same thing with my clients. I love working with PCOS because you can get such dramatic results. And just to remind everybody listening, you and I both work with lifestyle modifications and diet and exercise. This is a new lifestyle. This is not like a quick fix. It's not like you go on a diet, whatever. This is your new lifestyle. This is holistic health that will benefit you with your PCOS and with, your health in the future. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it takes time, right?
Yes.
And everyone's sort of timeline and journey is going to look different. But I think, unfortunately with sort of the culture we live in, we are constantly being sort of like inundated with messages around like diets and quick fixes. And if we start, implementing some nutrition and lifestyle behaviors and things don't transform overnight, oftentimes we jump ship, right? So these things are possible, but we have to be willing to put in the work and to give our body time.
For sure. Definitely not a quick fix. It's going to take a little time, but you will start to see. I find, and I don't know if you agree, but I find within about 30 days, we're starting to see a little bit of movement with the needle. And then as we go on and to get to that maybe 90-day mark, we see even more.
Totally. And I think, I'll always tell clients that there's things that we, should expect to see immediate benefits with, like, energy levels and digestion and sleep, and then other things that are going to, potentially take a little bit longer. So, I think absolutely with making some changes, there should be positive benefits early on. And then, we may have to be patient as we wait for, other things to shift as well.
For sure. I love it. Well, I love this conversation, but we do have to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsors. We're going to come back in. We're going to talk more practical tips. What can somebody do starting today to start to manage and reverse their PCOS? So we'll be right back.
Hey y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. Happy to share the sponsor of today's episode, TwoPlus Fertility, which was designed to help solve the issue of less than 1% of sperm reaching the egg when you're trying to conceive at home. Comfortable and easy to use, each device, which is as seamless as using a tampon, can be used up to 4 times a month. It's soft and comfortable, drug-free, and made of 100% medical-grade silicone. TwoPlus believes that every drop counts and encourages users to insert TwoPlus Sperm Guide before sex in an effort to stop sperm from flowing back out of the vagina post-sex. TwoPlus wants to bring as much sperm to the right place in the vaginal tract and create an experience that can be tried from the comfort of your own home or hotel room. Learn more about this product, which can be discreetly shipped to your doorstep by visiting 2plusfertility.com. Available in the US, the UK, and Singapore. And don't forget, use code Kayla30 at checkout for 30% off your order.
Hey, Jillian, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk some practical tips. So we talked about how important food and lifestyle pieces were in the first half, but let's really get into what should somebody be eating. Can you give us maybe like 3 different food groups or foods that are going to benefit us with PCOS?
Yeah. So in terms of, specific foods or food groups.
Yeah. Or just like an overall, what should our eating plan look like?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, I would recommend trying to overall really focus on, whole foods, minimally processed foods. And, I think, in our culture, there's just a lot of hype around like products and, all of the marketing around these fancy smanchy, like, superfood potions and things like that. And at the end of the day, I think our money and time and energy is best spent on just trying to unprocess our diets and eat whole foods that are nutrient dense, minimally processed. I would also say on a really basic level, focusing on balancing each of your meals with adequate amounts of protein, fiber-rich whole food starches, starchy carbs, and ample amounts of non-starchy vegetables is a really good starting point. And aiming to sort of have that nice balance at most meals is a really good place to start in terms of supporting blood sugar stability and energy levels and digestion. So those would probably be my two big starting points.
For sure. And one that I'm sure you agree with that you maybe didn't mention is fats. I love talking to my clients about fat because fat does not make you fat. So
yes. Yeah. I forgot that on my little balanced plate. So absolutely carbs, protein, fat, lots of non-starchy veggies at meals. That's a super great starting point.
Love it. So can you give us a few examples maybe of some healthy fats and maybe some non-starchy vegetables?
Yeah. So for healthy fats, in terms of, oils, I'm a fan of things like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. For more whole food fats, I'm a huge fan of things like, pumpkin seeds, almonds, cashews, avocado, and even, some of our animal proteins can be a great source of healthy fats, like your fatty fish. So, your salmon, your sardines, things like that.
I love it. And is there any foods that we should really stay away from?
Yeah. So, I would say in general, there's not, one food or a list of foods that are not going to be, supportive of PCOS in general. Really, I'm, an advocate for, bioindividuality and sort of navigating this and understanding your personal needs and not sort of arbitrarily avoiding or eliminating foods. Absolutely, there's going to be probably some foods that, people identify don't feel good for their bodies, that don't agree with them, that they may need to minimize or avoid. But that's likely going to look a little bit different for everyone.
Gotcha. And what about meal timing? How does that play a role?
Yeah, I love that you asked this question because I feel like it's always such a hot topic, particularly with women with PCOS, when there's all this, information out there about, fasting and this and that. So as a whole, in a very general sense, I am in support of, really kind of aiming to align your pattern of eating with your circadian rhythm. So, having something to eat, having a great protein-rich, well-rounded breakfast within the first hour or two of waking in the morning, and eating consistently anywhere from, about every, I would say 3 to 5 hours after that throughout the day to support stable blood sugar, stable energy levels, to reduce stress on your system. That's sort of how I would approach things. And then, ideally, naturally, that will probably build in, a 12-hour, overnight fast. And I think that's really where most of the research is in terms of PCOS and also just women of reproductive age, right? So we don't need to fast for 16, 18 hours, and that can actually be more harmful for our bodies. So I think naturally having a gentle 12-hour overnight fast can produce a lot of metabolic benefits, and we want to make sure that we're fueling super well and consistently throughout the day.
I completely agree. That's my recommendation on meal timing. So I love it.
Yeah. And do you find too that, I think with the whole, time restricted eating, kind of frenzy right now, a lot of women are sort of misinterpreting the research a little bit, where they end up just sort of skipping breakfast, skipping meals and having this really extended, overnight fast that extends into the morning. And then they feel horrible, right? They're overeating at night and just sort of working against their bodies. I don't know if you see that a lot in your.
I do. Yes, I do. And I love to point out to people that, a lot of the research that's been done on intermittent fasting has been done on men, which have a 24-hour hormone clock. We have a 28-day to 35-day clock. So it's completely different. So what works for your husband or your partner is not necessarily going to work for you. But I find with pretty much all of my clients, when they do the 12-hour overnight and then they're eating, that good whole balanced nutrition, 3 to 5 hours, every 3 to 5 hours per day, they find that they're satisfied, they're losing weight, and they don't have to do those longer fasts, which I completely agree. It shoots your cortisol up. It throws off your natural circadian rhythm. I mean, there's so many negatives of that fast. So,
exactly. Could not agree more.
Yes. So let's talk about any herbs or supplements. Do you have any, obviously always check with your doctor, ladies. Don't ever, add anything because you heard it on this show, but is there any that you might recommend, say that you see that work really well with PCOS?
Yeah. And I think, because PCOS does manifest so differently in each individual, I think there is that personalization that is usually needed to address, a person's sort of imbalances or root causes. But I feel like there are some core things that I use with a lot of, my women with PCOS that work really well and are really supportive. I'm a big fan of inositol for women with PCOS, specifically your myo and D-chiro inositols in combination, which can be really helpful for supporting insulin sensitivity and hormonal balance. So that's one that I use a lot, and women also will notice decreases in cravings, increases in energy with inositols, and they're just really safe and effective. Yeah. Magnesium is another one that I think pretty much, I mean, I would say most everyone should be supplementing with magnesium across the board, but particularly with PCOS, where we know women tend to have a much higher risk for deficiency. I think magnesium can be super supportive and help with things like, blood sugar and sleep and stress. So I'm a big fan of that. I also will use NAC or N-acetylcysteine a lot with clients. I also will often use like a really good quality, just like prenatal or a really good quality multivitamin and, trace mineral supplement that has, your methylated B vitamins, your zinc, something that's really comprehensive, since nutrient deficiencies are, really common in women with PCOS. I would say, yeah, those are some of my go-tos.
Yeah, same. Yep. Yeah. Those are perfect. I love it. Awesome. So let's talk about exercise. How does exercise kind of fit in with this? Should we be exercising differently with PCOS than if we say we didn't have PCOS?
Yeah. So, I would say yes, but I also would say this kind of applies to women across the board, but definitely with women with PCOS. And I think in particular, women that, sort of lean towards that adrenal factor PCOS. So again, their stress response systems are a little bit more sensitive at baseline. I would say that, these women should be a little bit more mindful of the really cortisol stimulating types of movement in terms of like, the high intensity training, the spinning, the running. It's not that we can't do any of these things, but if we're doing way too much of these things, this can make symptoms worse, right? It can make, the cortisol adrenal issues worse. It can make blood sugar issues worse. So my general recommendation, for women with PCOS is to, really lean into, supportive metabolic movement. So like walking and standing, moving your body in general, and, incorporating, low impact strength-based movement. So working those big muscle groups, which is so incredible for, insulin and blood sugar, and is not going to spike cortisol like, running and things like that. So those are sort of in general, I would say lots of walking and the low impact strength-based movement. I would say those are sort of the most hormone supportive types of movement. And if someone really loves and enjoys kind of the higher intensity stuff, I tend to just evaluate that on an individual basis to see where it could fit in a way that could still be really supportive, because we don't want to add more stress to the body at the end of the day.
For sure. And I completely agree with that. That's kind of how I talk to my clients about it. And two, remember ladies that, if you can get your diet and nutrition where it needs to be, you don't have to work out as hard to lose weight. So you can bring in some of this lower intensity, this walking and just doing movement that feels good. So wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh my gosh, could not agree more. And it's, back to what we were saying about when, women often will eat more and end up experiencing, weight loss or, some shifts that feel really good in their body. Same thing with exercise. It's not uncommon for me to, work with women to peel back on the higher intensity stuff for them to start to experience weight loss and to see all of these great improvements with symptoms when they're doing less. So I'm always saying to my clients, it's about working smarter and not working harder when it comes to all things movement.
Yes, I love that. What a great conversation and what great tips. Our audience has gotten so much value out of this. So thank you. And talk to us about your freebie. Do you have a little freebie for us?
I do. So I do have a freebie on my website. It's a guide that walks you through 10 different strategies for balancing blood sugar to balance hormones. So it's a really great starting point for anyone that wants to kind of dip their toes into what all of this means and getting some really great action steps for supporting blood sugar naturally.
Oh, I love that. And we'll definitely link that in the show notes, so it'll be real easy to find. Awesome. So tell us where we can find you. Are you on social? Where's your website?
I am. So I do have a website. It's JillianGreaves.com. And I'm also pretty active on social media, particularly Instagram. And my handle is Jillian Greaves RD.
Perfect. And that will also be all linked in the show notes. So it'll be really easy to find you and learn how they can work with you. So I love that. So any final thoughts before we close out today?
For final thoughts, I would say, with all of this information, and if you have, PCOS and you haven't found, the support you're looking for, keep advocating for yourself. And if you're implementing any nutrition and lifestyle behaviors, really make sure that these are, coming from a place of support and nourishment and, kind of trying to take steps away from that sort of restriction, punishment approach. So that's my kind of final thoughts.
I love it. Oh, well, thank you so much again, Jillian. It's been an honor to have you on the show. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a pleasure.
For sure. And thank you everybody for listening to the Hormone Puzzle podcast. Until next time, bye.
Don't forget to check out today's sponsor, TwoPlus Fertility, a comfortable and easy to use at-home device that increases the chances of a sperm meeting an egg when you're trying to conceive. Visit 2plusfertility.com to order yours, and don't forget to use code Kayla30 at checkout for 30% off your order. Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alert, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. So make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone Puzzle podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.